The peace before the storm, the night before the final day of the barn. The next morning, got right to it and continued to remove anything from the barn that was needed and salvageable. And these gentlemen started to cut the braces on the barn to make it easier to tip. And it is pretty amazing how quick and efficient these guys were. I remember putting that elevator up in the barn, and it was not easy, and these guys basically took it down within seconds. Now keep in mind they have proper tools, whereas back in the day we didn't have the opening on the side like it is right now because there was wood on there, and we basically put it up there on top of the hay as we filled it and raised it as high as we could. And we did use that rope though that's using to come down, so that rope was actually used to help pull it up in the first place. But it is amazing how two guys can do so much work in such a little amount of time. The days leading up to this, I tried to contribute as much as I possibly could, but once you get to this stage, it's basically stand back and let these guys do their job. And I really wanted to document a little bit more. Some of the days leading up to this, I couldn't document as much as I would have liked, just due to the fact that weather wasn't really letting me get the cameras out or, the drone out to get some aerial shots. So this day was lucky that I was able to get the drone out, which I have some shots later on. I did set up 3 cameras to kind of document some of this as it was coming down. So that took a little bit of my focus. But really not much I can do at this stage anyways, except for kind of get ready for the inevitable. And out of the 3 cameras I had set, one unfortunately didn't actually catch the footage I was hoping for, as the momentum kind of knocked it out of position as it came down. But I did get it from the drone, and I did get it from this angle here. You can tell these guys had been working together for quite a while, as they had really good communication, but yet didn't have to sit there and chat and talk about it for long periods of times. It was just kind of checking to see if they're ready, where they're at, and then they kind of knew what to do and move on. So I was pretty impressed with these guys overall. They've done a really good job. Even when they were taking the boards off, they were trying to basically keep it as clean as possible. Keep in mind it is a demolition and things are coming down, but they did a great job salvaging as much as absolutely possible. You can kind of see me kind of going over just to confirm with the guy on his timing, just because I wanted to make sure I had the drone in the air at the time he was going, so he kind of gave me a little bit of an idea of what to expect and what the timing was going to be like. So that was helpful, and I appreciated their communication with me as well. I also appreciated him taking the time and effort to make sure to shake as much dirt off that tree as possible, because he realized everything that he pulls out I'm going to be getting rid of with my small 1025 John Deere. So the lighter the load, the better. Even though the John Deere can actually handle 700 pounds, I believe it is, the more we can get off, the better. And, the guys are getting towards the final stages. They're just getting everything in set and gear and kind of moving everything around to where they need to be to set. And we're getting pretty close to showtime at this point. So we're all just kind of standing back and trying to keep my dad out of the barn because he kept going in. The gentleman in the back is going to take the bucket off, and he's going to switch it to a large piece of steel. He's going to knock out the 2 wooden granaries that were on either side of the barn. Back in the day, before they had grain bins on the outside of the buildings, they used to put some in these basically wood boxes on the second floor to store some of the grain or corn or whatever they wanted to store at the time. Obviously, later on, every barn got outside external grain bins, which are more efficient, but back in the day, it was built with inside. I am going to switch to a split view here for a moment, because we are getting close to the barn coming down, and things will happen very fast at this moment. So me being a little bit new to the drone flying, I wanted to get it up and get everything going because I wanted to make sure not to miss it and make sure everything was going. But you can also see at this stage the one gentleman working on the back of the building and one gentleman working on the front of the building. And I did learn a little bit of lessons while I was doing this because, again, drone flying is a little bit new to me. I wanted to have it going as fast as possible on the drone, which is a little bit harder to watch on playback, but it does make a difference when the barn was falling, which is what I wanted, and I did slow it down for more of a cinematic look at some of the later view. But I did leave it going for quite a while after the barn came down and just left it on autopilot, just because I was kind of stuck in the moment. So watching back, it gets a little dizzying, that's for sure, when you watch it for too long. And you really can tell how much the right tools make a difference, as adding that metal beam on really makes a difference, as he's able to break down the old grain bin granary with ease, and so much easier for them to do that in seconds. And that would have been a day job for me to go and take a hammer and knock every single one of those off. And it is amazing the efficiency these guys have, and having the right tools makes such a big difference. And when we get to the video, which is coming up very shortly, and I'm going to do it in two shots, one with the drone and one from the lower level, and it is amazing how fast he gets from one side of the barn to the barn actually coming down in real time. And we're back to the aerial view. And again, I know it's kind of going around a little bit quick, but I promise this won't be on for very long, as I wanted it at that speed for when the barn was to come down. And you can see them just finishing up the last little odds and ends. And they got to knock out one more granary on the far side. And that literally takes seconds for him. And this is basically the final view of the barn in this format. And you can see him right there sneaking in to knock out that other granary, and it's all going to happen very fast from this moment on, as you'll see the beam go up into the air and you'll know it's just about to happen. And again, the communication on the two gentlemen, knowing what's going on all at the same time and able to get into appropriate positions, is incredible how well these guys work together.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Just in case once wasn't enough, here is another view as it comes down. just like that, the barn is gone. And there's a lot of emotions that kind of went through me as it was falling. So, for anyone that's never seen one of my videos before or me talking about this subject, the barn was actually one of my favorite places in the entire world to be in. But there hadn't been animals in it for about 13, maybe 10 years. And they really start to age and fall apart when there's no animals in it and you're not doing regular maintenance on it just due to the fact you're not using it. And the foundation really started to give out, and we're close to the city, and town people think that everything is free game for them to gonna go and wander through the barn as well. And at least 2 to 3 times a year, I'll be kicking people out that think it's a playground. And with the foundation giving out and it being a barn, there was holes designed from the top level to the bottom for hay and straw to go to down. People that don't know that or are wandering it because it's dark, because we've turned the electricity off quite a while ago, they could hurt themselves, and then it become a lawsuit and liability. And unfortunately, all the factors put together, as well as, you know, me and my mother in particular, just not like looking at it anymore, even though it was the happiest place in the world for us at one point. Seeing it deteriorate in front of our eyes, it's a sad reminder. And unfortunately, when you put everything together, it was time to come down. But I will say, as it was tipping, I definitely felt my heart kind of shattering a little bit, because it was the happiest place for me back in its heyday, so to speak, when it was beautiful and we were using it. But those days had passed, and it was time to move on. And I really have to take my hat off to these guys again. They did a great job in trying to work respectfully. The weather had been frozen the couple of days prior, really probably for the week prior, but the conditions have started to get soft for the last 2 days of this project, as far as up to now, because it's still going on right now as far as the cleanup. They tried to keep themselves on the same area, so they're only making a mess of a small area instead of a larger area that they didn't need to. And just the accuracy too, like as this guy is pulling off the steel on the roof, and they were able to go through and really recognize what was salvageable, what wasn't salvageable, and they did a really great job. I really can't say enough about these gentlemen. They were willing to work with us. There was some stuff that was mounted to the top of the roof that we wanted. So as they're going through here, they made sure to keep looking for it so it didn't get tossed out, because we wanted to save it, because it is part of our family history. And the things that were important to us, they made sure to get us. And I'm going to be honest with you, at this stage of the video, I wanted to show a little bit of a different perspective. And I will say, I was trying to time the bottom with the top like I did earlier, but I have so much video, and honestly I just found it frustrating, so I'm like, I'm just gonna try to show as much as I possibly can and give a bit of an idea. And I'll do the split screen here just to kind of give a bit of an idea of what they were doing and how precise they were doing it. That's actually pretty close to all at the same time that they were doing, but it is neat to see the different perspective. And it might be a little bit redundant, but as making YouTube videos using a drone, as well as trying to use some more techniques and split screens, it just gives me some practice. So this part's really more for me than anyone else, but it kind of gets two things at the same time done that benefit my story, so to speak. And to be able to do that and get all the steel off, a nice big shot like that, again, it's just such a huge time savings. And honestly, that part of the video looked kind of neat, so I thought I'd throw it in there. I don't want to get too redundant on it, so I'll try to make some of these a little bit shorter clips because this went on for hours and hours and honestly days. But I won't put all of that in this video. But that being said, I did miss it when he took down the grain bin. I had a camera up, but unfortunately the wind blew it over. So I missed that, and it was actually pretty impressive. He basically dropped this circular bin in a matter of minutes and basically put it down on the ground and folded it up like you would fold up some bed sheets. And again, it's just pretty impressive how easily he did it. I know he's been doing this for a long time, so he's very skilled, but to literally take a large grain bin and fold it up like a blanket was pretty impressive to watch. And unfortunately, I missed that because the wind blew over the camera. So I left the cameras rolling, and me and my parents went for lunch. And honestly, it's just very repetitive, so I'm not going to show you all of that. But when I came back, they basically were getting to this stage. So, of course, I threw the drone up in the air and had another look. And again, this is basically 2 hours worth of work. So these guys worked very, very quickly. Now, cleanup always takes the longest amount of time, and it is an entire week's worth of work and progress that happens. But that being said, the actual falling down and separating the different materials, getting the stuff that can be reused separate, and the stuff that's going to be junk separate, they were so quick. And any of the beams that are good are going to be reused. In particular, they like the beams that were handcrafted. The beams that weren't handcrafted don't have the same value for people reusing, but the ones that were handcrafted, those are the ones that people typically like. And you can see at this point, we've moved into ripping the floor off of the top level where all the hay and straw would have been kept. And basically, they did a great job. We also had a grinder for corn and wheat and all that kind of stuff that would grind it up for the cows. We actually kind of wanted that out, but honestly, it was just, it's heavy, it was awkward, it was in a bad spot, and it was also by the wall that was falling apart. And these guys, as they were going through, were accurate and careful enough that they were able to get that out for us. And again, they were pretty incredible. Some of the wood is just going to be scrapped, but they did a great job of going through and again, like just getting into the stage where the wall's kind of coming down in part of it and the floor is coming out. Like it really is impressive how little time these guys needed to get all this done. And for the sake of speeding things up, we'll fast forward again, and you can see there's quite a bit more gone of the floor and the base, and they are just moving along quickly. And as I'm making this video, it's really hard to tell how much of the demolition to add to this because I don't make demolition videos, so I kind of don't want to show not enough, but at the same time, sometimes it's kind of neat when you see them pick up these giant pieces of wood or steel and it all comes up in one big slab, which I believe he's about to do right now. And it is really impressive how easy, again, having the right tools can make a job. Not to mention the skill, because you can see he basically broke off in a section so that he wouldn't destroy the beam to salvage the beam. So it is very impressive the experience that these guys have of being able to get rid of the so-called garbage, the stuff that can't be reused, and the stuff that we're going to be able to, you know, recycle, reuse, resell, and some of the stuff we're going to reuse ourselves. It's pretty incredible just how they can do it so efficiently and yet not wasting time. And again, another giant piece all in one shot. That does make life a lot easier when it all holds in one piece. I know that from experience on some things. And again, with the magic of video editing, we've moved forward again, and you can see quite a bit more is gone. We are wrapping up the first day of actual demolition of the barn coming down. This is actually the third day in the process. We had a day where they were cutting all the boards off, and we had a day where we were just getting stuff out of the barn as well. So it has been a fair bit of a long process to get to this point. There's still about 3 to 4 more days worth of work that has to be done just cleaning up. And then there'll have to be some work I'll have to do in the spring just because the weather did turn a little soft on us. But it is really good to be at this stage, the barn down. It is a headache off of our shoulders. And with the city coming, and again, people that like to wander onto our property, it's just a breath of relaxation that it's gone. Please subscribe for more videos.